In this class, we will discuss about an important type of problem called axisymmetric problem, which is a particular case of polar coordinates. So you have learned about polar coordinates. In polar coordinates, it is a two-dimensional cylindrical coordinate where you will be having only r and theta. So this phi is a function of r and theta. So where phi is called as the area function, it depends only on r and theta. It is independent of z, of course. So if r, theta, z, all the three are involved, then it is cylindrical coordinate. It will be three-dimensional. Now, axisymmetric problems are the problems which deal with members subjected to axisymmetric loading. This is a very important word. Axisymmetric loading. That means you will be having two linear measurements and one angular measurement in cylindrical coordinate system. So R and Z, they are the linear measurements, whereas theta is the angular measurement. So then it is called as cylindrical. Among these three, if you have only two, R and theta, then it is called as polar coordinates. So it is independent of Z. Now, some of the examples for axisymmetric loading is that, first example I will take cylinder with external pressure. So cylinder, this is a cylinder, it is subjected to external pressure like this. Of course, I have taken the pressure in the form of a hydrostatic pressure. So it's triangular in nature. It will be 0 at the top first and maximum at the bottom. So if h is the height or the depth of whatever water or whatever liquid is there. So then, this and if gamma is the specific weight of that liquid, then the pressure at the bottom will be gamma into h. This you have learned in your fluid mechanics in your undergraduate level. So it varies from 0 to maximum gamma h. Now here, r is this direction. Of course, if you take this as the r direction, radius direction. Theta will be the angular direction like this. This is the plan. You can see that this is the plan. This is the elevation. In elevation, you can see the height. So this vertical axis, you have to take it as z. So this horizontal axis, it is r, and theta is measured in the angular range, anti-curve direction like this. So there will be pressure acting over the entire circumference of that cylinder. So if you take the z-axis as the symmetrical axis, then whatever pressure is there on the left side of this, same pressure will be there on the right side of that also. So it is also called as solid of revolution. So 360 degrees. So the pressure is same along all the circumference, means it is uniform along the circumference of the cylinder. So this is an example for axisymmetric loading. Another example is circular footing on soil mass. So this is the soil mass. You can see here, once again this is the elevation. So normally you are going to have footing for different types of columns. Here I will take circular footing. So this is the circular footing. So it is designed to carry the load on the circular column. So you may be having a circular column here. So that column is resting on circular footing. So this is another example for axisymmetric problem. In this case, in plan you can see that along the radial direction r will be there, and this is the angular direction. So theta can vary from 0 to 360 degrees, and vertical axis is your z-axis. Here also you can see. So if you take z-axis as the axis of symmetry, this problem we can repeat it as an axisymmetric problem because the loading is symmetrical about z-axis. Now the third example is a pipe with internal or external pressure. So a pipe is running, let us say a water supply pipe, something like that. So there is an internal pressure in the pipe, and suppose if the pipe is submerged in soil, there will be external pressure also. So PO is the external pressure, PA is the internal pressure, and R is the radial direction, and theta is the angular direction like this. So here, along the length of the cylinder pipe, you will be having that z-axis. So you can see here, if you take along the length this pipe, so here what happens, Z if you take as the horizontal axis, the loading is symmetrical about this Z axis, you can see here. So this also becomes an axisymmetric problem. So these are the three examples for axisymmetric problems. So what I mean to say here is, in the case of axisymmetric problem, so this phi, that is area stress function, what we say, so that will be function of r and theta in general for polar coordinates. But in the case of axisymmetric problem, what happens? It is independent of theta also. That means your phi will be function of only r in the case of axisymmetric problem. This is one important thing you should remember. So it is, that means three-dimensional problem which consists of r, theta and z, it will be transformed to a one-dimensional problem. So phi is equal to f of r means, so it is function of only r. So it is converted to axisymmetric problem means it is one-dimensional problem. Please note that phi is a function of only r. So three-dimensional problem is converted to one-dimensional problem. It is advantages of having axisymmetric problems. So solution is very simple. If you can transform a cylindrical coordinate problem into a polar coordinate problem which is two-dimensional, and that one into an axisymmetrical problem which is one-dimensional. So three-dimensional problem is getting converted to one-dimensional problem. Now in the case of polar coordinates, you can see here, in the case of what you can say, three-dimensional cylindrical coordinates, the stress-strain relationships will be like this, similar to your Cartesian coordinates. So in the case of cylindrical coordinates, these are the stress-strain relationships which you have to remember. So epsilon r is the strain in the radial direction, which is given by dou u by dou r. Please note that u is the displacement along r direction, v is the displacement along theta direction, w is the displacement along z direction, u, v, w. In the case of Cartesian coordinates, u, v, w are the displacements along x, y, z directions, whereas here they are the displacements along r, theta and z directions respectively. And in the case of cylindrical coordinates, we take only these four. Of course, in the case of cylindrical coordinates, we take these four as the strain components. So dou u by dou r is epsilon r, dou u by r is epsilon theta, dou w by dou z is epsilon z, and dou u by dou z plus dou w by dou r is gamma r z. That is the shear strain. So these are the normal strains along r, theta, z directions. This is the shear strain along the this is the shear strain. So r gamma r z. Now these are the strain displacement relations. Coming to constitutive relations, which gives the relationship between stress and strain. So in the case these four components of stresses, sigma r, sigma theta, sigma z and rho r z, so they can be expressed in the form of a constitutive relation in terms of strains. So this is your stress vector or stress column vector, and this is the constant matrix which I will call it as D. So this E divided by 1 plus mu into 1 minus 2 mu into this matrix is your D matrix, and epsilon is this, epsilon r, epsilon theta, epsilon z and gamma r z. So this relationship, sigma is equal to D into epsilon, this relationship is known as the constitutive relationship. Okay. Now we will in particular, let us see what happens to this in the case of an axisymmetric problem. So in the case of axisymmetric problems, stress components depend only on r. That's what I told. They are independent of theta. They don't contain theta term. Geometry, loading, boundary conditions and materials, they are symmetric with respect to one of the axes, that is z axis. So you can see that geometry, loading, boundary conditions and materials, so they are all same with respect to symmetric with respect to one of the axes. That axis of symmetry, you can take it as z axis. Now we can see how an axisymmetric problem can be solved. So phi is the area stress function in polar coordinates. Of course, here phi is a function of only r in the case of axisymmetric problem. So the biharmonic equation which we studied in the case of Cartesian coordinates, it applies to polar coordinates also. So the biharmonic equation in polar coordinates can be expressed as del power 4 phi is equal to del square of del square phi is equal to 0, where del square is this. This is called as the Laplace operator. This is called as Laplace operator. So in the case of Cartesian coordinate, this del square will be dou square by dou x square plus dou square by dou y square. That's all. Whereas in the case of polar coordinates, del square will be dou square by dou r square plus 1 by r into dou by dou r plus 1 by r square into dou square by dou theta square. This is your Laplace operator del square. So this del power 4 can be written as del square of del square phi is equal to 0. So it can be written like this. This is equation 1. So equation 1 is the biharmonic equation in polar coordinates. In the case of axisymmetric problem, what happens? This theta term will not be there. Please note that, because phi is a function of only r. So phi is equal to function of r. Theta terms you can eliminate. So in this theta term will be there here and here. So these two you can eliminate. So in the case of axisymmetric equation, the biharmonic equation will be reducing to del dou square by dou r square plus 1 by r into dou by dou r of dou square phi by dou r square plus 1 by r into dou square by dou r square. So this will not be there. This term will not be there. Is equal to 0. This is because phi is independent of theta. Phi depends only on r. So this is your biharmonic equation. Del square phi is equal to 0 for an axisymmetric problem. So you have to note down this. So that is still reduced. The polar coordinate equation is reduced to axisymmetric problem equation. Now we know that the stress components in polar coordinates will be only 3, because it is 2-dimensional. So just like your sigma x, sigma y and tau xy, you have sigma r, sigma theta and tau r theta. And actually the expressions for the stress components are, in the case of polar coordinates, sigma r is given by 1 by r into dou phi by dou r, sigma theta is given by dou square phi by dou r square, and always this tau r theta is equal to 0. So you have to remember that. So the general solution of this equation 2, so equation 2 is nothing but the biharmonic equation for axisymmetric problem. If you solve this partial differential equation, so you are going to get the general solution in this form. So this is very important. This is the general solution for any axisymmetric problem. So your phi, so that is a stress function, will be in this form. So phi is equal to a log r. Log means it will log to the base e. Please note, natural logarithms, plus br square log r plus cr square plus d. So here this a, b, c and d, so they can be found out. They are constants. They can be found out using the boundary conditions, and it depends upon the type of the problem. So for example, I have given here these 3 examples here. For this problem ABCD will be different. For this problem ABCD will be different. For this problem will be different. It has to be found out based on the type of the problem and the boundary conditions. Now, so if you are going to use these expressions for finding the stress components, if you apply that to this phi, if phi is this, so then sigma r will be 1 by r into dou phi by dou r, which you are going to get this. After differentiating this with respect to r and multiplying by 1 by r, you are going to get this expression. This becomes your sigma r, that is the stress in the radial direction. Then using sigma theta is equal to dou square phi by dou r square, that means differentiating this twice with respect to phi partially or with respect to r partially, you are going to get sigma theta dou square phi by dou r square, which is this much. So here, and of course dou r theta is 0. Now here a, b, c, they are the constants which we have to find out using the boundary conditions. So this is about the axisymmetric problem, which in some of the practical applications we are going to use this. These are some of the examples for the applications. To solve problems of these kinds in elasticity, we are going to take them as axisymmetric problems, and this is the biharmonic equation we have to use for the axisymmetric problem. These are the stress components in the case of axisymmetric problem. So this is what I wanted to explain in the case of axisymmetric problem. So let us take one or two problems in the next lecture.